Hi everyone, it's me, Tim. Today I want to talk about this channel's 3rd year anniversary. This video is going up on April 27th, 2026, exactly 3 years to the day that I started this channel. It's going to be a different kind of video. The 1st year and 2nd year anniversary, I threw a bunch of statistics at you. I'm not going to do this. That was very number oriented. I want to talk about instead kind of like why I started this channel. I had a bunch of stories, been in the industry for decades. There was a bunch of stories I wanted to tell. But inside that were two groups of stories. And I've talked about this. There were stories I can't tell because they're either under NDA or they could be considered defamatory and I don't have enough evidence. So if I've ever told any stories on here, you know I've got evidence and notes to back it up. There's some things I'm like, well, this happened, but I either really wasn't involved or I don't have any way of proving it, so I can't talk about it. But then there are also things I won't talk about, and that's specifically stories that were other people's to tell. And I've talked about that there were things I saw happen that I wasn't involved in, or somebody came and talked to me afterwards for advice. And I think they're good stories, but they're that person's story to tell. So within that, what's left of all the stories I wanted to tell, I think I've told a lot of them. I think I've told most of them. I don't think I've told all of them, not yet, but I'm really, really close to that. The stories that remain are probably really specific and, I know I use this word a lot, nuanced in the sense that I could tell them and people could come down on either side, and most people just bring their own experience to it and go, I don't know what happened, but I think this. And then, so it makes me wonder, should I even get into that? Because I don't know what people are going to get out of those stories. But I can tell you that more and more recently on this channel, when people ask questions, instead of me saying, oh, that's a good question, I'm going to ask a video, I either say one of two things. I've been saying more frequently lately, I don't have any experience in that. It was things like, hey, Tim, will you talk about strategy games? Or, hey, Tim, will you talk about what development is like in the EU or in Asia? I'm like, I don't really have a lot of experience with that. Or I've been responding with links to existing videos. And that's been happening more and more frequently. Somebody will ask a question and I link to a video. Sometimes I respond and go, but I wanted to know about this. And I usually go, it's in that video. It may not be the title of the video, but what you were asking, I literally answer in that video. And I'm trying not to be too repetitive, which some people have said you're failing. But overall, I try to make each video kind of its own thing. And if people ask questions about it, I can refer to the video. The other unusual thing about this video is I usually have a list of topics. I don't script any of my videos. I usually have a list of topics. I don't for this because there are just some things I wanted to talk about, and I felt like I don't want to go down a topic list and be like ding 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 ding. So this is maybe a little rambly. This video, this whole channel is very different than other channels. I'm not doing this for money. This isn't my full-time job. That's why you don't see me putting in I think they're called interstitials. The things where in the middle of my thing, I'm like, now I want to talk about Surf Guppy or, some VPN network that I think you should use, because I'm not here to sell you anything. And that's something I want to stress. I'm not trying to convince you that the way I did game development was right. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm not trying to, eventually make a memoir because I wrote it and it's bad. However, I did have an agenda that I've expressed on this channel many times, which is I have a way I like making games that result in games I like. So my goal was always, if I tell enough stories and I convince a small subset of you to get into the game industry, and then a small subset of that makes games using the techniques I've talked about, and then a small subset of that will actually make an RPG for me to play, win-win. You got to make something and I get to play it. So that was always kind of like that agenda. And if along the way you guys get to see what the game industry is like I've talked about what it was like 40 years ago and what it's like now, if that gives you some idea of what it will be like, I'm hoping that unlike me, you don't dive into the game industry wide-eyed and very naive and having no idea what you're getting into. Because I think I've told enough stories that you guys should have a general idea of like the game industry is, it's fun, but it's difficult. There's a lot of people who want in it, so you're competing with a lot of people, which I don't say to be discouraging. I say to remind you that you have to bring something to the table. You've got to have something that you can do well so that you can convince someone to pay you to do it. I know a lot of you want to go, but it's art, and I want to express myself artistically, and that shouldn't be tied to a paycheck. Great. Then you don't want to be in the game industry. The game industry is a for-profit industry. But by getting in the game industry and accepting that, you get access to a lot of resources and a lot of people who are like-minded who want to make games and can bring all kinds of talent to the table. This channel grew way bigger than I ever thought it would be. I've said before, and I still feel now, I thought I'd get a few hundred, maybe 1,000 people watching, have some interesting discussion for a few months, and that was it. The fact that I hit the first year surprised me. The fact that I hit 100,000 subscribers surprised me. That doubled to over 200,000. Pikachu Face. I see other people in the industry doing channels like this, some of which I think are better, and not get these numbers, which distresses me, because I think if you really want to know what the industry is like, you need to hear it from a lot of different people. I say this before, don't take my word on everything 100%, because while I'm not lying to you, I do have a very distinct perspective of the game industry. And except for the very first company I worked at in Virginia, all the other companies I worked for not only were in California, but were in Southern California within a probably 20-mile radius. So you're getting a very, very specific view of the game industry. And I want you to understand the whole game industry. So you should watch other game developers talk. And I want to stress that. Watch other game developers talk. Look at someone's pedigree. What games did they make? Are these games that will be similar to what you want to make? Then watch the channel. You can watch other game developers who've made games that aren't too similar, just so you can broaden your understanding of the game industry. But there's also a lot of people that have never really made a game, or they just dabble at it, and then they're like, I'm going to make a YouTube channel. Not saying don't watch that, but don't watch that for the same reason you're watching mine, which is to find out how the game industry really works and what it takes to work with a team of people to get out a professional product. Because, like I said, I've made my own game engines, and I've used Unreal and Unity to professionally make games. There are other engines out there that I've never shipped a game on, so I don't talk about it. That doesn't seem to stop other people who've never shipped a game on an engine from talking about it. So try to at least look into what the person who's giving you advice, what their experience is, and maybe what they seem to be trying to get out of their channel before you accept everything at face value, and also get a lot more perspectives than just mine. Anyway, I guess the other thing I wanted to talk about was I do seem to be winding down on my list of topics. When I started the channel, I had a list of topics of stories I wanted to tell, and you guys asked really great questions, and I added to the list and added to the list and added to the list until at some point, I would say more than half of my videos were me answering questions from you guys and not going back to my list and going, what was that story I wanted to tell about Troika, or about, what happened on, South Park or something like that. I've told those stories, and the questions that you guys ask that I both can and will answer are starting to diminish. So I wanted to point out the channel is probably nearing the point where I see it being done. I think I've explained to you the game industry as much as I can. I've told all my stories, the fun ones and not so fun ones, and you've heard it all. I think I am going to make one more game before I retire again for the second time, but who knows? And I just kind of wanted to say here, it's like my topic list is getting smaller. I see a light at the end of the YouTube channel tunnel. I think the chance of there being a 4th anniversary video is small. It's not zero, certainly not 100%. I think that's everything I wanted to talk about. I didn't mean this. I hope this isn't a Debbie Downer video. I also didn't make it a fun Friday because I knew I was going to talk about some of these things. But this channel's been up for 3 years. That's a long time. It's probably about 12 times longer than I thought it would be up. So I'm excited. I think you guys are great. You guys ask such good questions. The last 3 years, I've talked about things that I never even thought I'd talk about because you've reminded me that there are things that I learned foundationally decades ago and now just take for granted. And I'm glad I got, people who are interested enough to follow along and ask really good questions. Anyway, we're going to keep doing that. I'm just saying Uncle Tim ain't getting any younger. Uncle Tim's story pile is getting smaller. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel for this YouTube channel. But what I really want to say is thank you for the 3rd anniversary of this channel. Hope you guys enjoy it. There's going to be more videos, and I hope you enjoy those too. Anyway, thank you. Have a great day.